This is Real Tax, Real Insights, straight talk from the EY Center for Tax Policy in Washington, D.C., where we break down the tax policy developments that matter to your business. Today, we're addressing the dynamic trade policy landscape. Joining me is Lynlee Brown. Lynlee is a partner in EY's global trade practice, and she advises clients across several sectors on these changes. Lynlee, it's great to have you. Let's get started. First question. How is the Trump administration's tax policy different from what we've seen in the past?
Yeah, it is. It's fundamentally different. So the last quarter century, we have focused on trade liberalization, establishment of the WTO, multilateral free trade agreements, and now not. So now we see these individual country framework agreements. It's very one-on-one. It's very insular. From a scoping perspective of these tariffs, it's also fundamentally different. So 1930s was the last time we had tariffs at this level. Between then and now, it's been very targeted tariffs, very targeted trade policy for a very specific reason. So we have, about imbalance in trade. Let's put tariffs on solar panels. Let's put tariffs on steel. Now we see broad brush, every country is involved and most of the global products. So pretty fundamental shift in approach and paradigm.
So very significant changes impacting many sectors, many industries, and many countries across the globe. So how are companies dealing with the changes we've already seen, and how might they prepare for what will come next?
That's a great question. I mean, we've seen this evolve over time. I think there's still two camps. You have a set of companies, generally these are sector specific, that are looking to say, okay, maybe I'm not impacted quite yet or enough yet. So I'm gonna wait and see. That doesn't mean I sit idle. That means I model, I financially kind of pick and see what are these scenarios that are be the most impactful for me, and what might I do if things get a little bit more impactful than they are right now. Then you have the other side of the spectrum, which right out of the gate they were impacted. So they have been actively planning. And when we talk about planning for duty mitigation and for trade policy, right, we're planning around our supply chain. But we're trying to be not invasive. We're trying to think of ways, very high ROIs, but maybe not a ton of disruption within the business. So we're focusing on customs valuation. These tariffs are ad valorem. They're a percentage of that customs value. So we're focusing on changing financial remuneration, not so much physical supply chain quite yet.
So no significant changes yet, but have options ready in case you need to act fast, but at a minimum, some leading practices to manage the impact of these tariffs. Then the last question that is, I think everybody's focused on is, if there's a change in administration and a different party is in control here in Washington, D.C., will there be a rollback of these tariffs, or at least a change in trade policy?
That's a great question. And I think in order to answer it, we really need to think about, there's really two different sets of tariffs that are happening right now. You have Section 232 and Section 301. Those involve investigations. Those involve process and procedures. They have a longer timeline before they're implemented. And then you have the IEEPA tariffs. That is purely executive branch. When we look at history, first Trump administration established these Section 232 tariffs. They also established the Section 301 tariffs. These are all still in play. The new ones are these Presidential Powers Emergency Act, right? This is the IEEPA tariffs. Those I do think could have more of an ephemeral lifetime when we think about changing in administrations, but for the most part, I think we focus on tariffs are sticky, the 232s are sticky, the 301s are sticky. The executive power ones are perhaps more able to be changed with a different administration.
So there's a more formal process in the first category, which means there's a more formal process to reverse them or change them faster, but we don't know what the trade policy would be in a different administration. Lynlee, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for sharing your insights with us. And thank you all for watching this episode of Real Tax, Real Insights. In the coming months, we'll be releasing more episodes featuring other EY tax leaders from the Center for Tax Policy, breaking down the most top-of-mind topics in tax.